Let's see what the game has in store for us now. February 24th, 12:14 p.m. at District Courtroom number 9. Before we actually read, I want to look at this case file. File for the Joe Dock killing solved 2 years ago. Incident number SL-9. Case closed. Perpetrator Joe Dock. Crime, serial murder, sentence, deaths. The victims were Edward Jones, Edith Kirby, Jeb Bates, Jason Knight, Michelle Moss, Neil Marshall. Marshall? Oh no! Poor Marshall. But no Sky. Trial date, head prosecutor Miles Edgeworth, witness Lana Sky, Emma Sky. Investigation Task Force, execution investigator Damon Grant, Lana Sky. Head investigator Bruce Goodman, investigator Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. Mr. Marshall lost a family member. I'm gonna guess a brother. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, state your name and occupation. Me, partner. I'm just a man, same as you, honoring the trials of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling winds call it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling winds? Never heard anyone described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You're in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado soul is as boundless as the desert sand. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Day of the crime. My job is to keep a wary eye on the bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, everyone's protected by 2 security systems anyways. If I remember right, it was at the street side saloon at the time when it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time to hit the trail. How has he not been fired? I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security camera and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint activated locks in the evidence locker? Fingerprint activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickey are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weakness now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. Day of the crime. My job to keep a very eye on the bone orchard. How exactly do you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still. Ugh. It's even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interrupted the recordings. You interred them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I erased the tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. The sales supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard of what I said, partner? I told you that it ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No, Desperado, I know, let's rules get in the way. No Desperados I know joined the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How did this guy avoid being fired? Besides, the room is protected by 2 security systems anyway. You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course, back in the days, my locker was a goldmine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Stop, partner, I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's, incredible. The sensors on the lock handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Goodshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? I remember right out the street side saloon at the time it went down. What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel's steak lunches can beat the parlor's Vongol's Spaghetti's pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually what Edward says. Did you not want to raise this year? Just an innocent traveling man, and ammo hit the trails. Out of ammo, Officer Marshall. That's right, partner. Or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin this crime, then you better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west of the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card on my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I had better up the ante. The room's protected by 2 security systems. That's one thing I'm looking at. It was a street side saloon when it went down. I'm just an innocent traveler. If you don't have any evidence, it's time to hit the trails. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime, and yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind you at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of the crypt. I pay my respects. That is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. That's not what I mean. And I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what is the meaning of this? Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene. The blood was wiped away. However, a luminal test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me There ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall, about the bloodstained fingerprints. Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. I'm losing my mojo. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just so happened to be at the same place the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker when my fingerprints was by... The murderer touched the locker when my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. The witness' explanation appears valid, although there is room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. How do you know the guy had gloves? The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. Only natural, being in the evidence room. That's because you, how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month. Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. Oh, that's in there now. There was a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my friends weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from the locker programming. He must have been using fingerprint lock all this time without even knowing it. Lost a fingerprint update to the court record. One of them just so happened to be the same place the bloodstained handprint. So then, what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine? It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happens the murderer touched the locker with my fingerprint was by chance. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. You got one thing straight, partner. You ain't getting no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's gotta do his breakfast for the other the type of murder. He's right, although seemingly alike, they are totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Or did you not know the murderer was wearing rubber gloves? How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep officer reports. There was a blood stain at the scene of the crime, thought to be left by the murderer. Ah, that's right. It was found on Detective Goodman's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint? That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? The seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape? So long as my trial isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Too bad it wasn't me. What do you mean by that? What, tie me to this crime, is that right, partner? If so, the video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence that this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do. Yes. This is back to what I was going on before. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. I brought this one out earlier. Now then, let's have another look at the video. It's the thing at the end. It's the blah 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 blah. Cloth hanging out. I don't know if the music actually speeds up. It doesn't. Bringing your attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The day of the shooter in Texas and you are out of tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out. That was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone! What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened the locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Order! It would see. Hold your horses, sorry, partner. But you got the wrong man. So, what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. Not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call you bluff. You say I opened that locker, now prove it. It's the locker itself. Only assigned detective's prints can unlock it, indicator lamp lights up when it's opened. The fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The locker can only be opened by the detective they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There's even some people on the force that don't even know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Order! Order! Witness, explain yourself! If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever seen. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Ole! Oi! I have no idea what that was supposed to be. Please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? Ole! Okay, so it was Ole. That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can. Have a look at the floor plans. There was no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Minkins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It would seem that Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there? That's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory. Your chamber's empty, partner. Better reload. Now they're ganging up on me. Perhaps you should rethink. Wait, what? Should have seen him in the... He was the killer, though. Oh, no, he opened up his locker and I guess missed all of it? Officer Marshall was standing right here. So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there. Okay, what are you doing then? Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's what the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Ah, forgot. They swapped him around. God dang it. Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in this video is Officer Marshall. I hate that. I hate that because I'm thinking Minkins is the freaking victim because he was the one on the ground. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he knew for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his ID, so... yes. And how did Detective Goodman respond? He started pulling a knife out on me! Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's prints are on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. I think I said his picture, and I think I said prints. Oops. Officer Meekins wouldn't have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say about this, Officer Marshall? You got creative imagination, partner. You got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? You're still denying it? You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up like the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond the shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems like you're the one who can take the desert heat. This can't be happening. It's still ours, he still won. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, and despite the chance, it might be discovered later as it has been seen. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all of our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Could be to get rid of the knife. Could be to get rid of the coat. I'm thinking it's the blood stain on his shoulder. For some reason, you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman and enter the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Minkins barged into you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled the knife on him. However, Officer Minkins panicked. And the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat? You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner.